This is Education Matters. I'm your talk show host, Mr. Kamambogwa, and I have with me Mr. Fred Sandia from VIOS, and on my right-hand side, I have Madam Kiogona from Pacemaker. We are talking about the place and the role of volunteerism in education with a specific bias for SDG number 4. And at this point in time, Mr. Sandia, kindly address the issue of sustainability. Can we have volunteerism going for a long period of time? Is it self-sustaining?
Again, thank you so much, Mr. Mbugwa. When we talk about the sustainability of volunteering, or volunteerism, I want us to look at a nation and look at the demographics of a nation, and with a focus on the youth. But even before I go to the youth, I would mention that volunteerism is something that engages everyone in the society, for children, adults, retirees, and the young people. But now, with a focus on the young people of Kenya, if we narrow it down to our country, I think we have a surge in the youth population. For me, that is social capital. And when we look at that and allow ourselves to have infrastructures and systems that then embrace the young people, then I can confidently say that volunteering is sustainable. But even having mentioned that, I think there is also the need to appreciate that volunteerism is something that needs to be practiced at even the basic level of a household, of a family unit. Then we can look at that as something that will be progressive, as something that can be passed on. You know, it is one that also brings the aspect of responsible citizenship. And so that any one of us will be waking up to know that I need to do right. I always give a good and a simple example. When you eat your sweets and you throw your sweet wrappers just anyhow, then I ask, are you responsible? And volunteerism is telling us to, is helping us to instill that sense of responsibility. But even beyond that, we can now look into supporting volunteerism within a structured system. And this is what we refer to as formal volunteering, where organizations are having their own systems that are well done, well laid out. They have a way of recruitment, a procedure of recruitment, a procedure of placement, and a procedure of sustenance. At that level, sometimes you may realize that there is a bit of challenge in terms of financing volunteering. And I think that that is the biggest gap that would still be there, and that is also a global debate on how can we finance volunteering for sustainability.
Now, just at that particular point, when you talk about financing sustainability, I want you to tie in with the very fact that we are cognizant of the fact that there is a very high incidence of lack of employment. So we may be having the so-called, the youth boom that you have just referred to, the very young, energetic youth with the skills which could add value to society. This person is maybe willing to volunteer. He doesn't have a job, but he has the skills, so he has the time. Now, the issue I want to address as far as sustainability is concerned, how do we ensure that this volunteer is able to earn his keep, so to speak? He has a roof over his head, he has something to put into his stomach for his own sustainability. How do you manage that?
Even before I get into that, there is a basic that I want our viewers to appreciate, that volunteering is by virtue of free will and free choice, and so that it is done without the expectation of any pay or financial gain, rather than what we refer to as necessary reimbursement. However, we are human, and we appreciate that at the end of the day, volunteers need to be able to, you know, even look smart.
Yes.
And how then do we do that? Within the formal setting, I know that volunteers that are engaged are sometimes given stipend to cater for their transport, to cater for their meals, and it might not be so much to save to be able to now live on your own, but it is something that in your own wisdom as a volunteer, you can use it to make sure that whatever it is that you are doing out of free choice is sustained within the framers or the agreement with that particular institution. But even beyond that again, you realize that and to cite Kenya, and the policy that we've come up with, we are looking at what we will be calling a national volunteer program for Kenya.
For Kenya.
Within which then we'll be engaging volunteers, just like, for example, the America Peace Corps, the JICA, the OICA, you know, all these agencies that are having established systems within which then they bring the citizen to go out of their own countries or even within their own countries to work. Such structures, in my hope and expectation, with the great support from the government, would then ensure that a volunteer engaged at that level would be able to somehow sustain the work that they do.
I want to turn to this side. As far as sustainability is concerned, you mentioned that Pace Kenya was set up in 2013, so you're around 5 years or 4 years old. How have you dealt with sustainability issues? How have you ensured that you keep the doors open, you make sure your volunteers actually commit their time, deliver a service, and sustainably so?
I think, thank you for that question. So what has really helped is having a structured way of volunteering. So we've provided structure to now how young people can give back to the society. So whether it's having a policy that the schools that we work with are able to sign and say, you know, these are the areas that we are going to engage the volunteers, and also making sure that, you know, the volunteers as well, before they come into this, they are actually signing an agreement where they are committing to the time, to the rules of the program, and also just making sure that everyone now has, like we are working on, like we have a framework that we are working on. So for us, putting a structure has really helped with sustainability.
Are you able to give a small stipend for the volunteers?
Yes, we are able to give them a transport stipend, and also we ensure that we post them to schools that are not very far from where they go. So I mentioned, rather PACE stands for Promoting Access to Community Education.
Yes.
So we get young people in different communities now, whether in Nairobi, Kajiado, Kiambu, to serve schools that are in their community. So this is a place where they can relate. It's a place where they are familiar with, and so also it saves them on time and also resources. But they are able to give them.
Understand there. What are the threats, the changes that could you think that if they are not keenly addressed could kind of thwart the process of volunteerism? What are the issues that you have to look out for to ensure that now volunteerism is sustainable?
The bigger picture as a country, what we're looking at is inculcating that spirit. Not that it has not been there, but we are reawakening, like a sleeping giant, that kindness we used to have, that care, that tenderness, the concern. And so when I look at that, I do not see and I do not envision a situation where we would say that there would be a threat per se. However, there are those critical areas. One, how actively involved or engaged are we as a people want to become? And in what things do we want to be engaged in? And even beyond that, volunteerism is not something that you want to make exclusive. Volunteerism has to be as inclusive as it can be, so that any one of us out there, any viewer now, any corporate company watching, any academic institution of our land, including the primary schools, because volunteerism, as I mentioned earlier, cuts across, needs to come out to support efforts that are made by every other agency, but most importantly the government, who are now in the forefront in trying to develop policies and work on laws that will govern us. That doesn't mean we bury our head in the sand. It needs us to appreciate and to start looking critically at what it is then that we need to do best, so that we sustain the spirit of volunteerism in the country, so that we have a people that will be, you know, proactive enough to come out and say, I am a staff working with Safaricom, if I may use that with due respect as an example. I know that Safaricom is doing quite a lot around
CSR.
CSR.
Yes.
But what are you doing as an individual employee of that specific company, of that institution where you are, even if you're a government officer? What is it that you're doing at a personal level?
And that brings me to this challenge, which I want to throw this end. You are in the education sector. You are doing PACE. To what extent have you tried to involve the alumni? There's this gentleman, this reader who is a reader in his community, he went to school in that particular school, and you have found out that the school is lacking in 1-3 areas, maybe the skill sets, maybe the resources. To what extent have you roped in the area of alumni in giving back to society, maybe, and by so doing, enhance again the whole issue of sustainability of volunteerism in the education sector, with specific regard to education?
Thank you very much for that question. So what we've done at PACE is that we've partnered with an alumni association at Buruburu Primary School, where now we have this class of 1985 who came back to say, you know, we want to do something for our school, we want to uplift our school. And so they partnered with our program and made sure that now we are able to send volunteers to that school. And they are also open to supporting even projects in that school that are aimed at, you know, uplifting the school and making sure that, you know, it's a better learning environment for the kids. And so one, I think how we've done that is work with the alumni association, and we are open to working with many others who maybe think, you know, there's a school in my community, I'd like to go back and do something, but I don't know what to do.
How? You don't know?
So, yes, so they can actually contact us, and we are able to now do that.
Well, Mr. Sandia, we are talking this matter of volunteerism on the eve of a function that you're attending in South Korea. Just give us a comment of what it's all about and tie it in with this conversation that we're having here.
Oh, thank you.
Let the viewer know what you are attending that.
First of all, the viewers out there need to know that I'm a volunteer, just like most of you aspire to become an artist. And all these responsibilities that we're taking is out of the desire to see Kenya becoming a great nation. So I've been honored by an invitation to attend a conference in South Korea, in Seoul.
When will that be?
This would be from the 20th to around the 27th.
Yes.
I'll be out there to represent my beloved country, Kenya, the VIO Society, and most importantly, the volunteers out there have made me become who I am, because we do it together. And the discussion during this conference would be around transformative partnerships in volunteering towards the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is an honor to be invited to sit and discuss in the opening plenary of what it is that we are doing as a Kenyan towards ensuring that we have enabling environment for volunteerism to also contribute to the work of the government and every one of us in making Kenya better, and also not just for Kenya, but to be a practitioner or maybe a point of reference for Africa, because this is something that volunteering is something that is global and appreciated by the UN Assembly as a cross-cutting means of implementation. So I'll be there to discuss all this that we are talking about here, but also to look at how do we position ourselves as a country in the global sphere of volunteering. That is what I'll be doing.
Well, we wish you the best. Steve Janice, Sandia, give us a good representation. And then I want us now to turn to the concluding remarks. And today being the day of the International Day of the Girl, I will give you the privilege to comment on that as you make concluding remarks around volunteerism, and just say something for the girl.
I'd like to appreciate the female energy. I think it really drives our community, and even from our program we've had young girls who have come out with very good projects for the schools that we send them to. And I'll highlight one that is very recent, where we send some girls to primary school in Maradaima, and they noticed that actually kids were missing school because they were having stomach problems, and so what they actually decided to write a proposal to Planet Yogurt to get the kids now spoons to be able to use during their lunches. And so the company actually they committed to doing that monthly, and so these are some of the things that now we celebrate, that young people and especially girls are able to to go to these spaces and identify needs and actually follow through in coming up with ways to solve them. And so yes, basically that's what I
Thank you very much. We are concluding remarks, Mr. Friend.
First of all, to appreciate that I'm a father, I have 2 daughters and a son, and I give a shout out to my daughters this day as we celebrate them. And I also know that I worked in the children's sector for more than 10 years, And I have several girls out there that call me uncle, call me dad. I want just to give it a shout out to all the girls there. I know that we are with you. But in my conclusion, I want to encourage every viewer who is watching and those that will tell the story of what they watched about volunteering today to take up the responsibility, to rise up and to be the change they want to see. We can do it one at a time. We are promoting volunteerism, not that because volunteers lack what to do. We always around the volunteerism sector say that volunteers can never be paid, but they can only be appreciated. I want to encourage that young person, that old dad and mom who are watching, that there is something that we can do as a people to change this country for the better. Go out, volunteer, make Kenya great. God bless you.
Thank you very much. And on that account, my dear listener, my dear viewer, I'm glad that you're watching. Keep watching. We have been on the issue of volunteerism, and I think we are convinced, we are in agreement, volunteership can make a difference in all the SDG, 17 of them. And with a specific bias for SDG number 4, we have seen what PACE is doing. Mr. French said it, we can do it together. On that account, I say thank you, keep watching, keep it here at Elimu TV, all education matters. Thank you.